Aye, pause real quick. If you're from DC, or you love DC, this one's for you. Welcome to the People's Voice DC, a podcast where the city speaks for itself. Not just politics, not just headlines. We're talking real life, community life, DC life. From the metro rides to the murals on the walls, from classrooms to corner stores, from church basements to community meetings. This is where conversations actually happen. We talk about what matters: housing and money, mental health and healing, culture, music and creativity, faith, purpose, and finding your way, relationships, parenting, and growing up in the city. Yeah, we talk politics too, but only because policies affect our everyday lives. This show is presented by Rising Voices of Politics and founded by Reverend Michael Campbell with one goal in mind: give the people the mic. And when we say the people, we mean everybody. Young folks with big ideas, creatives with something to say, parents holding it down, leaders in the making, and anyone who's ever felt like their voice didn't matter. Trust, it does. No fake debates, no talking down, no boring energy, just real conversations, good vibes and perspectives that feel like home. Catch us live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and social media by searching The People's Voice, DC, or Rising Voices of Politics. Missed the live show? It drops the same night at risingvoicesdc.org, and you can listen anytime on Spotify. So whether you're on your phone, in the car, in the dorm, or just trying to feel connected, tap in, tune in, and be part of something bigger. This is The People's Voice, DC. The city, the culture, the conversation. And yeah, the people got something.
Welcome to this week's edition, actually the second show this week, of The People's Voice DC. Listen. I got my brother Eric in the back, Ward 3 SBOE. But before we get started, I do have to talk about something. Y'all know me. It's something that's always going on, and I just got to talk about it. I just have to. And I'm going to put it up on the screen so you can see. Enhanced Games. The Enhanced Games. This is an Olympic-style competition where steroid use is legal. As a matter of fact, it's even encouraged and medically supervised, per se. It is set to launch in Las Vegas in 2026. The idea is that it's going to be a great sporting event, is that you're going to have these superhero-like athletes because they're so juiced up on steroids, and the ratings are going to be great, and the entertainment is going to be out of this world. So, I mean, hey, look, they say that, the athletes will be medically supervised, so they won't, I guess, do too much. They won't, I guess, harm their bodies per se. I'm a little concerned about this. I don't know if it's safe. I don't know if I want my child growing up saying, I want to be a star in the Enhanced Games taking steroids. I just don't know if that is the thing. Now, will it be fun and entertaining? It just might be. I don't know. I have mixed reactions. I'm like, I want to watch it. It's probably going to be a lot of fun, but I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know. But let us know what you think. Write a comment, send us an email. Give us a call. It doesn't matter, but let us know what you think. We really want to. We're going to cover this. We're going to really cover this as it unfolds and happens in Las Vegas. So listen, we're not going to delay this show anymore. We have a special guest, and he will be with us right after this.
Out in the cold, we're here, we're bold. I'm Eric Goulet here, just a member-elect for the Ward 3 State Board of Education. I just want to be out here to support our teachers in terms of getting the wages they deserve. They've been 3 years without a contract. They've stuck with DC and stuck with our kids through a pandemic, and we need to make sure that we get a signed contract in place. So I want to support our teachers. We need to be able to retain teachers in DC, and one way to do that is having a contract in place that gives our teachers the pay to be able to stay in our city, supporting our students in the classroom. So I'm just glad to be here, honored to be with our teachers today, fighting for getting a contract in place.
Hey, welcome, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic, Pastor Mike. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be on and appreciate the opportunity to talk about the important education issues here in the city.
Yes, and we thank you. That was I believe that clip. We definitely thank you for standing with our teachers and our Washington Teachers Union. Unfortunately, I'm no longer with DCPS, but I know at the time a lot of us were feeling very unappreciated and undervalued. And what contract we did get, we should have gotten a little better, and we should have gotten it much more sooner. So we definitely appreciate you for that.
And thank you so much. And we at the state board did a resolution immediately following that March to encourage a resolution for a contract in a timely manner. And then soon after it was approved. So we were happy to support our teachers. The State Board of Ed always supports our teachers here in the city, and having a contract in place, helps retain teachers in DC. So thank you for putting that video on. And it's something that we really, as a board, support, and I personally support. Both of my parents were teachers growing up, so I recognize the sacrifices teachers make and the contributions they give. So glad to do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's get right into it, man. Mr. Goulet, State Board of Education rep. I do know that you had run for council before. I know that you worked with the great former council member and former mayor Vincent Gray. So I mean, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what led you down this path, and how you became the Ward 3 rep, and are you planning to continue this and run again?
Well, so when I graduated from law school, the only place I wanted to go was DC. I came to DC wanting to get involved in public service. And my first job was actually working for Councilmember Sandy Allen, who was the Ward 8 council member at the time. I worked on her Health and Human Services Committee and really enjoyed that. I then moved over to the Finance Committee and then decided to run for, a lot of people forgot the first run for council was actually back when I was just 28 years old. I was on the Committee on Finance and Revenue, and that's where I met Vince Gray. I was out on the campaign trail and got to know Vince really well. And then he won the chairman's race. I wasn't successful in the Ward 3 council race, but he asked me to come on as budget director. And I worked for Vince, who you and I both respect, for 15 years after that. And I think the world of him. He is everything that a public servant should embody. Hard work. I mean, Vince works 16-hour days, and just a real passion and love for our city. So that just got me excited and engaged in public service. It's what I want to continue doing. I love the work we're doing at the state board to represent our students here in the city, to empower student voice, to try to improve conditions for our teachers, and try to make sure that every student in DC graduates with an education that will set them up for success in college or career. So I do plan to, to run for re-election for State Board of Education. I love the work we're doing. I love the progress we've made. And I want to be able to continue doing that. And, part of what I enjoy is working with our youth. So we're going to have a youth engagement summit just today, where we're going to hear youth voice from across the city, and then take that voice and figure out then what policies we need to recommend to the incoming mayoral administration on how we can do better here in our schools.
Yes. I actually will be in Ward 7 tonight at our educational forum with our council member as well. That will be at the Maya Angelou School this evening for those interested and able to attend. But you talked about continuing the work, and so I actually put this graph up for another guest on our show, but it's so relevant. Ward 3, with their reading on grade level, Ward 3 has the absolute highest percentage of DC fourth graders reading on grade level, and generally they have the highest levels of proficiency in math and reading. What do you credit to that level of success, and how do you plan to sustain that level of success?
Well, certainly, I think there's several positive things that are occurring. First of all, we do have great schools in Ward 3, as we do across the city. So that's one thing that really has shown our students how to succeed. The other thing we have is a universal pre-K program here in DC, which gets our students into education earlier, and that's what how we saw an increase in test scores and student performance once we put universal pre-K in place. So those are two very important things that we have going for us. But the reason we see an increase, a higher level in Ward 3 versus other wards really is we both know there are still really serious issues with poverty in the city. And academic outcomes are largely driven by poverty. So our goal as a city needs to be to try to tackle all of the root causes that make it more difficult for a child growing up in poverty to be able to succeed. And when we look at those outcomes that you just put on the screen, a lot of that is driven by the challenges a child faces with either family instability, food insecurity, or just a family having additional resources to be able to provide tutoring or supports as that child grows up. So I think that as much as I would love to say our schools in Ward 3 are specifically driving that, I think poverty is the big driver of success versus sometimes struggles in those areas.
Yeah. I definitely appreciate you saying that. Just a few other numbers just to kind of throw out there for the public. In Ward 3, it's 68% roughly white, 9% roughly black. In comparison to Ward 8, which is roughly 87% black and only 5.5% white. And there are also numbers that you can see that Ward 3 advantages versus east of the river. Their wealth is among the highest in DC. The grocery access is very strong compared to food deserts. As you mentioned, the poverty levels are a lot lower. And the obvious that I guess you can say, some people would say is the elephant in the room, is that it's majority white as compared to majority black. Race, demographics should not dictate education. As the SBOE rep, you're always advocating for more resources for your ward schools. You're talking about how your schools are oversized. We had a candidate for council member come on the show, and he felt a lot of solutions could be used through creating community schools. Do you think that community schools could be the answer to a lot of these problems?
I am a firm believer in having neighborhood-based schools because I think it does tie the community together. I also do support charter schools that we have in the city because, when I didn't know much about charter schools when I came to DC. I was unfamiliar with them. So I felt that charter schools would provide a resource for families. Because there is music in the background. I don't know if that's traditional. It's a little, I'm not sure if I'm hearing it or just you. It's okay. All right, great. Okay, good. All right. So So with the charter schools that we have in the city, those I think provide parents with options. So if their student is struggling in a public setting, it gives them an option to be able to uh, have a choice to get a better school. I don't think community schools are what we need. I think what we need is several things that we push for as a board to eliminate some of the challenges. One is to try to provide universal out of school time opportunities, first to students who need them the most. I think that's really important because it gets students into positive experiences after the academic day. It gives them something to get up for, and it prevents them from going off and getting into trouble after school hours. The other thing that we are really trying to push for is universal school meals. At the board, I was proud to partner with students to pass a Green New Deal for schools. Part of that was to provide universal free school meals for all our students. And then lastly, the other thing that we really need to try to focus on is the Birth to Three. Is somebody we both know with Vince Gray, was the author of the Birth to Three legislation at council. I was fortunate to be able to work for him as we drafted and funded that. And his belief was getting children into an educational, supportive, positive setting as early as possible is what we need to do in the city. So I think what we need to do next, the next step, is to complete the work we had on universal pre-K, making sure we bring pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds to Ward 3, which we don't have yet, and then making sure we expand Birth to Three access throughout the city so that no family in the city pays more than 10% of their income on childcare here in the District of Columbia. I think that's something that will really help level those wide disparities that you see right now and allow students who may be growing up in poverty to have a lot of the same resources and chances that a student who's growing up in wealth has here in the district.
That's an interesting take. I totally love that. I actually teach poetry during out of school time where I work at Monument Academy myself.
That's amazing.
But I do think that it's under resourced. I think that there are opportunities. There are times I want to take my kids on an actual poetry recital, or I want to do things. It's out of school time, but it's still at the school. And sometimes kids want to get actually out of the school, and that's a lot of times why they would choose not to participate in out of school time activities. And so I do think that it's under resourced and underutilized by far.
Yeah, and you talk. I know you've been following the curfew discussions too. I mean, I think the point you just raised there gets to the point of the curfews too. Is we need to find things youth can do that are positive, that aren't necessarily in a school or DPR setting. Like just trying to incentivize fun, affordable activities for youth to be able to do, so they don't have to go do other things. Like for me, I mean, having roller skating, a climbing wall, independent activities, gyms, dance clubs, all of those things that if you can gear them towards youth, you would provide affordable, fun things for youth to do in the city. And we don't have those right now. I feel like we've really lost a lot of those touch points where youth can go interact with each other in a positive setting that's geared toward youth. And I think what we need to do is try to incentivize through some of the tax abatement resources here in the city, those businesses to be able to get them, to open up in the city and to be able to maintain a positive environment for kids. So like those are the types of things I think we need to do rather than just focusing on the negative of the curfews, trying to find positive things for our youth to do that they enjoy.
Well, no, it's interesting that you, I say DC has always had a curfew law. I'm in opposition to how we've been using it lately, should I say. But the conversation is centered around, when we talk about this topic, a lot of our city's resources are going to MPD. And those resources could be used for the youth. Now, I want to bring up a tweet that you had tweeted on May 4th. It says, these officers have to work mandatory overtime because our council pushed to freeze hiring and pass a series of anti-police laws that discouraged new recruits from considering DC crime soared, and now everyone is trying to explain that away as a national trend. The crime crises in which hundreds more DC residents lost their lives didn't happen due to trends. It occurred because intentional decisions were made to play loud, radical voices, even though decades of evidence showed cutting and demonizing police would increase homicides. So the question is, do you think that we actually do need to have these programs funded, or do you think we should have more policing in place?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. So, when I was the budget director for the city, we had three priorities we always put first. One was fully funding education. The second was fully funding an adequately staffed police department. And then three was, funding job creation. So, through education, we funded activities for youth. I think we can do both. We have the resources in the city to do both. I think the issue is when you cut police officers, you end up actually spending more money because you're then paying overtime for mandatory expenses that you have, because DC is a place of the federal government, obviously, as we both know, so there's protests here. For me, it was one of the biggest mistakes. When I became budget director, Kathy Lanier, who was the police chief, came to both Vince and I and said, if you can get us up to 4,000 officers, we'll deploy those officers in a way that reduces overtime, reduces costs, and then brings homicides down to levels we haven't seen in 50 years. We work closely with Paul Quander, who is the deputy mayor for public safety, Ward 7 resident, amazing man. And they deployed officers in a way that was strategic. It wasn't in a way where they were deployed in an aggressive approach or, through abusive policing. What they did was they went out. If there was an incident in the community, the chief would make sure that had extra resources then the following night to prevent retaliation, because a lot of the homicides you saw started from something that was occurring earlier. So then you ended up with a situation where we brought homicides in the city down to 101 per year on average, and that includes the tragedy at the Navy Yard. So it would have actually been under 100 a year had that tragedy not occurred. And to me, going back on those proven strategies that we did not make sense. And it cost a lot of lives in the city. And I don't think it saved money. It certainly, cost innocent residents their lives. So for me, it's not either or. I think you can have an adequately funded police department and have youth programs for kids. And I think having a police department that's fully funded actually saves money because you're not spending it on overtime then. So that's my take on it. I think I'm trying to move past what I think were a lot of serious mistakes at council and focus on the here and now with it. But for me, if you don't have a safe city, you're going to lose revenue and you start a downward spiral. So I think we've seen large improvements, but we still have a long way to go to rebuilding trust with police officers who felt like they were demonized and targeted really for no reason.
Is it possible to fully fund the police without gutting necessary programs? Because that's what has been happening. We have had to make a choice of, it seems like the mayor has been making a choice of either money to the police or essential services that our at-risk youth and our at-risk adults need.
I think within the budget, there's money for both. I mean, I think you do have to look at the budget. You have to scrub it for waste, fraud, and abuse. But I will just say, reducing police in terms of numbers ends up costing you more in terms of overtime, because you're then paying time and a half, but you still need the same coverage. So you get worse service, end up paying time and a half for it, and then you have a less safe city. So I think the way to do this is to set out the priorities. Obviously, for me, always public education services for youth are number one, as they were, when I was budget director, working for a man who put them number one too. Public safety has got to be funded. And then you look at job creation, economic development incentives for the city. Those are the things you fund first, and then you see what else you can do here in the district. And we face a lot of challenges here in the city with the federal government contracting, shrinking down. So we've got to be very mindful about how we're spending our money, how much we're borrowing, and making sure that we set forth a sustainable and responsible path for the city. And I don't see it as either or for those things, because I think both end up saving money in the long run. If you can keep kids out of trouble and you keep the city safe.
I do want to highlight some comments from Peaches. Peaches says that they should be for the youth like it used to. She used to manage those programs from 97 to 2005. Her program was from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. and it was cheaper than aftercare. She believed the people hired, even if officers, they should be community passion and they should focus on youth care. She says that police were not demonized, but that they abused power. And in those situations, it's hate. We need police who care about their jobs. And also thank you for your compliment. You're such a good listener, Pastor. So yeah, I think that's something that has to be considered. I think that there are different experiences, and me at the age of 38, been in the DMV all my life, bleed DC, lived in Ward 1, raised in Ward 6, lives in Ward 7. I have never, and I have to be completely honest about this, I have never had a positive officer interaction. I'll take that back. I have one officer who's a Ward 7 officer who the whole community knows. He's the only officer that I've ever had that I have positive interactions with. Any other time, even leaving church as a pastor, just preaching, I have any other time I have had an interaction with an officer, it has felt so demeaning, so demoralizing, and just almost intimidating. If I wasn't another person, I'd feel intimidated, but I don't. And so I kind of try to always understand the other shoes, always understand both sides. But often when we talk about safety, I do believe that we need safety. I do believe that we need officers. When we're talking about 4,000, I'm always kind of leery, because it's like that's more opportunities for me to be harassed. There's more opportunities for people to follow me around and look at me. There's more opportunities for people to just stereotype me and profile me. And so I guess that's where I'm at that in that conversation.
Well, I think when we did do the 4,000 officers, one of the things we were able to do was try to do what you're talking about, is improve the positive interactions between police and the community. So what Kathy's plan was to really get police out to the community meetings, to get to know their community, know their neighbors. So it wouldn't be a situation where then there was just only an interaction, maybe with an officer, who was responding to a situation, potentially coming off in the wrong way, but to build really positive connections with the leadership in the community. And that's how we got the homicide numbers down to under 100, to the lowest level in 50 years.
No, not
the
to cut you off.
Between police are positive. Okay, go right
ahead.
Not
to cut you off.
Yeah,
I have to bring this up. I have to ask. So, what was the retention back then? Because the issue now is also, we may have an officer that's assigned and they may come out to community meetings for 2 or 3 months, and then it's all of a sudden a whole new commander or a whole new lieutenant, and it's like, as soon as we start to develop a little bit of relationship and start to kind of trust this person, he's gone. We had to try it all over again with another person, and it's very hard to establish that kind of trust that you're talking about that way. So how did Gray retain the officers?
Well, one thing we did is we increased pay. We had incentives in place to retain officers. But the other thing was just really having a positive climate generally, where officers, felt like they could do their job and they could do it in a way that was professional and that it achieved results. And everybody was in it together. And what we saw was, many lives saved from that. Homicides, as I say, dropping to the lowest level in 50 years. And I think what we need to do in the future is I think we're facing a retirement bubble. So that is one challenge. We have your older officers who are retiring, but then also trying to create incentives for teachers, police officers to stay in our city. Because what you'll have happen a lot of times is, you'll have a young officer, a young teacher come in, serve maybe 5 years, but then they want to go buy a house. They want to get a yard. So then they move out to the suburbs. So offering housing incentives through our programs that are more generous than they currently are now, that really allow officers, that allow teachers and other professionals that we want to have living here in our communities to be able to stay here, I think is really important. And that's how you get that continuity that's going to be important in the community. And you build those relationships that then last over time, because then the officer is living with the people they serve. That way the teacher is living down the street from the school they work at. And those are the types of interactions that we really need to build.
I agree. And as you mentioned, it's the same exact issue almost with our teachers and our education. Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to highlight Peaches had a couple of more comments. She said, thing is, the police need to be trained to leave their feelings at home. Once they park, they should be protecting and serve, kind and defending the victims, not making victims and or creating fear. I am passionate about this, so I appreciate hearing you both talk about this. And we also appreciate your comments as well. I know for me, I definitely always welcome the interaction and always welcome questions, comments, text messages, phone calls, emails. It doesn't matter to me whether it's a critique or something that you agree with. It really doesn't matter. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with your listener. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we need police to be professional. I do think we have one of the most professional departments in the country, but there's always continuous work, we need to do to remind officers and remind all professionals in the city just how to interact with people, consumers, in a positive manner. So that goes for officers. It goes for somebody picking up the phone at the tax office. It goes for somebody at the DC Council. It goes for anywhere who interacts with the public. So those types of that training should be ongoing, and it's something that we should strive for across the board.
So what are your thoughts on the school resource officers? Are you a supporter of the school resource officers in our schools?
Yes, I 100% support the school resource officers. We had legislation that was approved at council a while back that would have actually zeroed those out. And that was, during a period of time where a lot of concerning bills were passed. The principals across DC were very concerned about the safety of children. They came out and testified at council hearings in mass, in a way I hadn't seen before, to express concern that this was going to put students at risk. I feel the school resource officers are fantastic for several reasons. First, it's a volunteer program. So it's police who want to get involved, who are interested in working with youth. There's special training for that. And it allows youth to see officers in a more positive way. I've met school resource officers. I can't say I've met all of them, but the ones I've met have been fantastic. They've wanted to work with our youth. And it really helps keep youth safe outside the city. We look at the tragedy that just happened outside Jackson Reed with the student being tragically killed. And, that's a situation where having those resource officers, in this case, didn't save that child, but it does provide a resource both in and outside the school to try to prevent problems from occurring. So I support our principals on that. I think school resource officers are certainly necessary, and I want to make sure that they remain there for schools and for principals who feel they're needed to just keep students safe here in the district.
I definitely agree with that, and I just wish that we had one in every school, and that's public and charter. Oftentimes we feel like as educators we have to be the school counselor, the child psychologist, the mentor, the child's personal security guard, the child's escort. Like, it's needed.
And
Every
those officers,
school.
yeah, and those officers are oftentimes much better trained to interact with youth positively than private security. Like when people were pushing to get rid of SROs, what would have replaced SROs is private security guards who don't have the training that our officers do. So it wasn't that there was just not going to be any security presence there. It would just be one that has lower standards than our police do. I think SROs are essential. I would like to see them in every school that would like one. And, I hope we build the program back up to what it was before it was cut.
Totally agree. Last issue on these schools, man. Libraries. It seems to be a big difference in the schools' libraries based on their location. Some, quite frankly, some schools have better libraries than others. Some schools really don't have no library, and how can we move to address this so that every child has an equal opportunity to get the resources that they need and to learn whatever to expand their knowledge, expand their horizons, be able to just grab a book and read.
Well, I think that's important, and I'll be glad to look into that. I think we should have equitable library resources across the city. Some of that may be a function of the size of the school, because obviously it's funded through a per-student funding formula, but I think we want to see a librarian at every school. We want to see resources for students to be interested in reading. One of the things we're working on at the board right now, a resolution I've authored, is trying to make sure that we teach reading of full-length novels to students in junior high and high school to make sure that we're not preparing them for taking a test, we're preparing them for life, whether that be college or career. So I think having resources in the school, reading those novels in class, and developing a love for reading that's going to translate into success in college and later in life is essential. So I agree with you on that. I think that's probably falls more within the scope of what council would be able to do with the budget than what we would be able to do at the state board. But certainly I would be interested in seeing what the libraries look like across the city and seeing if there's a disparity there.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know about you, but I have so many parents coming up to me. They're saying, "Hey, my child doesn't even know how to write in cursive. Why don't you teach my kids how to write in cursive? You're going to mess them up for life. What's going on? What's going on, man?"
Well, I'm somebody who grew up learning to write cursive. I don't think my kids know it. And I guess, it's just one of those things that has faded with the times. They're on keyboards now. I like cursive, but I think it's gone the way of the dinosaurs. But I will say this, with the screens, that's something that we need to take up as a challenge because, we do have students that are on screens a lot nowadays, and trying to limit that time at home is the parents' responsibility, but trying to reduce it at school is going to be something that we take up as a board because, I don't know that we can bring back cursive, but what we can do is try to get our students to engage in a way that's not just on a screen and to have those types of discussions and experiences that maybe we had growing up in school. I don't want it to all then just shift to screens. We need to shift away from screens and back to more person-to-person conversations in school.
That wasn't on the agenda, but that's an interesting topic. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes. When you talk about taking away screen time, I'm totally a fan of it. I was actually looking into. There was a recent lawsuit against the Facebook CEO. I can't think of his name, but yeah, there's a lawsuit, and I was looking into it, and like. These apps and everything, they are designed to literally purposely catch your attention and keep your attention for hours at a time. They're literally created to do that. And so I definitely think it's important. But I'm thinking about some of the students that I've had. It's no secret. At least 70% of our students have been diagnosed with some type of a disorder or ADHD or something like that. We have a lot of autistic children. And I know my students that I've had over the past few years, they just have a very low attention span. And I don't know how I would be able, like, how these kids would cope, like literally off a screen, like how it would work. I think it needs to work. I don't know how it's going to work. I feel like these kids are going to go crazy. Like, I don't know.
Well, one thing we were able to do as a board, and we started this, as a board, and then the council picked it up, was banning cell phones during the school day. And I think that was a huge first step in this, is making sure that teachers don't have to fight students over whether they've got their cell phones in class. That there are no cell phones during the school day, and that's something that we started as a state board. I drafted the resolution on, and then the council picked it up through legislation, and it's now implemented. And I think it's making a huge difference. It reduces bullying, incidents of bullying when students have the phones. It just gives students a break from that. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, these devices and social media apps create like a dopamine need where it's an addiction. And the students keep scrolling, and it's not good for their mental health or their physical development. So, I mean, we can't deal with them in the home situation. We can try to reduce screen use at schools, which we were going to take up as a board. But I think that's a big challenge of the generation as to how we try to let our students grow up in a way that's healthy with all of these devices out there now.
Absolutely. So I posted, actually, before we go on to the next subject, I just want to remind everybody, listen, you can always join us. You can always join the Rising Voices of Politics. We're always looking for team members. We're always looking for board leaders. We're always looking for volunteers, lots and lots of volunteers. This is election season. Right after the primaries, we're going to get right into, listen, commissioners are important. Every single member district needs representation. In our city, we still have too many vacant seats. So maybe you're out there and you'll feel like, hey, look, we need a stop sign. Hey, look, our school need to be better in our neighborhood. Hey, look, who keeps allowing this 24/7 tobacco store to open up? You want to make a difference? You want to run for commissioner? You can join us and we will help you through the way. You can visit us at www.risingvoicesdc.org. So I posted this before, and I just wanted to give everybody a little quick intro when I was posting it, but you had kind of talked about your work. So in the 3 for All, the birth to 3 for All DC Act. So in 2017, Eric decided to return to the council's Committee on Health because despite having nearly 97% of our residents insured, there are still significant health outcome disparities in DC driven by social determinants of health. As committee director, under the leadership of committee chairperson, my guy, Vince Gray, Eric drafted legislation to transform DC's healthcare system for its 2 eastern wards with a new state-of-the-art community hospital, an ambulatory care center, and 2 urgent care centers. Eric also worked with his committee staff to draft the Birth to 3 for All DC Act of 2018, which will make subsidized high-quality child care services available for all DC families with children from birth to age 3. Definitely thank you for your work in that, sir. But I definitely, I know you're over there in Ward 3 now, but I did want to bring up and highlight those things and get your thoughts on a couple of things that's going on. You know, Vince Gray worked so hard. He had such a great vision. And our hospital over in Ward 8 on the St. Elizabeth campus is going through some issues. It's been reported that it's understaffed. It's severely underachieved. And I really don't think this is the vision that Mayor Gray had. Also in Ward 7, we were promised a freestanding health emergency clinic right in Ward 7 on the Fletcher Johnson campus. As you may or may not know, it's been delayed, and I think it's supposed to open up in another year or so. Meanwhile, I'm looking at TV and I see a commercial, and I see the new CEO of the hospital and all these promises. Man, it feels like it's just been a disservice to the mayor. What are your thoughts? To the former mayor, what are your thoughts?
So, yeah, I mean, this is the reason Vince came back to run for council. It was his passion is to try to put a new state-of-the-art, full-service hospital on the east side of the city with interconnected ambulatory care centers, as you mentioned. Now, I worked as general counsel at United Medical Center the last 2.5 years of its time, which, I mean, had amazing people working at it, really like a passion for delivering healthcare. The challenge with United Medical Center, as I saw firsthand, was the building. It was, a failing building at that point. It was built for an era where you went in for a week or two for an inpatient procedure that nowadays is outpatient. So it was way too large. It needed to, the building was falling apart. The physical systems were very old and required a lot of maintenance. So having a new state-of-the-art building is essential. So that needed to be done regardless. There needed to be a new building, and I think we have a beautiful building there. The building itself is amazing. Now, I do share the concerns you've raised, and I've heard from many people about the rollout being very problematic, not having enough staff ready to go, and that needs to be addressed. I mean, I think it's up to the administration, both the current administration and whoever the new mayor is, to hold UHS accountable for the commitments they've made. And if they're unable or unwilling to provide the quality care that they promised, then they need to look at another operator. I mean, we only had 2 bids on this. It was a competitive process. There was a bid by UHS, and then there was another bid that was by Howard and Sibley, but it was, I don't know if it ever really moved forward to the final stages because it was kind of more in the draft stage, it seemed like, but that could be another option they look back at. I know Howard was pursuing a new hospital on its campus. So if this doesn't work out, I hope they at least rethink the idea of possibly having Howard run the new hospital and then have its medical school over there, because I think it would provide in some ways relief for Howard, which is situated right now between GW and MedStar Washington Hospital Center. So it's got that challenge right there, two large hospitals it's situated between. And then it has lost a lot of its historical demographic base that it had through gentrification. So, that's something that was explored. I don't think Howard was at the point where it could be executed back then. But I think step one is making sure, we hold UHS accountable and that the quality of care they promised is delivered. And if that doesn't work out, we need to pursue something quickly. And I hope they bring the Howard option back on the table, because preserving Howard School of Medicine must be an essential thing that the city does going forward. I think it would be they graduate the largest number of African-American from any school in the country. So to not have that resource here in the city would be a tragedy, and we can't have that happen. So that's just an option to explore, and those are my thoughts on it.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I don't think many people understand the greatness that comes from Howard. It's more than just an HBCU. It's so much more. It's so much more. The contribution that Howard has not just made to this city, but to this country is so undervalued and underappreciated. So I truly appreciate you saying that.
And it might be a great fit. If the fit doesn't work out with UHS, the fit with Howard may be a good fit that works serving the population and then providing a hospital, to keep the great work of Howard's Med School going. So I think all that's got to be on the table as we look at it. But the number one thing has got to be, which Vince's vision was providing high quality, equitable healthcare for residents across the city in a true healthcare system. And we're not seeing that right now, and we need to. So hopefully UHS steps it up. If they don't, let's see what step 2 is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So look, we're heading towards the end of the show. It's been an amazing show. I truly appreciate it. Before we go, I do have one final plug-in, well, a couple plug-ins. First, I want to remind everyone of our Brothers Reclaimed Healing Circle. This is for men only. Ladies, if you want to cook us some dinner, if you want to provide us with some nice snacks or meal, you are free to drop it off. However, the circle is for men only. We know that our men are carrying a lot. We know that our men have some healing to do. We have grew up with some traumas that have gone unattended for so long. We are providing a safe space. Of course, this will be led by yours truly, myself, Pastor Mike. We also do workshops and retreats on a bi-monthly basis, but we gather monthly. So listen, our guys out there, don't feel embarrassed, don't feel ashamed. This is a no judgment zone. It's a very discreet location, and we make sure no one, is covering us. We're not going to put anything on social media or anything like that. We just care about you and your healing. So if that's you, if it's your son, if it's your brother, if it's your nephew, if it's your cousin, hit me up, send us an email, give us a call, shoot me a text, and let's get this city healed together. In addition, we cannot forget this June 19th, our Ward 7 Juneteenth parade is happening. We will start gathering at 9 a.m. and our parade will start at 11 o'clock a.m. That is not 11 o'clock colored people's time. That is 11 o'clock p.m. on time, meaning we will start putting one foot in front of another foot at 11 o'clock. So don't you get left behind. Make sure you are there. They don't say it anymore, but when I was growing up, we would say, be there or be square. Mr. Eric, I really, really appreciate you. This was a very, very, very awesome show. As I mentioned before, we love to have you back to talk about some more specific school issues, because I'm in education, so there's so much to talk about and that we can cover.
I would love to come on anytime. I mean, we're working at the board on issues like making sure we have universal school nurses, like expanded authority for our board. I mean, I would love to come talk about it with you anytime. And thank you for the service you do to the community. I mean, you really bring the message of Vince of one city together. And I just appreciate you a lot, Pastor Mike, for the positive way you approach everything.
I truly thank you. That when you said one city, I just had an instant flashback of that logo that you had. It was like awesome logo.
I'm gonna use it for November, so we'll use it again, because it means more than just a logo. I mean, it was what Vince lived by and what you live by. I'm trying to really bring the city together and trying to make sound, positive choices that lift up everybody here in the city. And that's what one city is, and I think it's something that we need right now.
Yes, indeed. Also, you're talking about out of school time. I have been organizing, trying to get a midnight basketball league launched for our youth to have something to do other than getting into to mischievous activities and possibly crime and other harmful events. So I would love your thoughts on that. I'll shoot you a text or inbox, and I'll shoot you the flyer and ask you for your thoughts and insights.
Well, I'm fully supportive, and I'd love to even come to an event sometime. So if you need any help, trying to make connections on it, that's the type of thing we need to be doing for our youth, is providing those activities. So thanks again for leading on that, and I'm here to help.
All right. Thank you. Listen, that's it, people. That's it for today's show. I do want to send a special thank you to, I hate to say it, X. I'm so used to saying Twitter, but I want to send out a special thank you to X. I thought that I was more popular than anything on Facebook. I really thought that was my calling card. Facebook was where I belong. But we have had the most views consistently for the past 6 months come not from Facebook, not from IG, not from TikTok, not from YouTube, but it came from you guys on X. You guys are the hero. Listen, we want to do more. We want to expand more. We plan on having a community day out in the field this summer where we're going to have a special nice book bag giveaway and everything. So listen, we need you. I don't do this often, but today I'm doing it. Make sure that you scan to donate. Make sure that you scan to support. I'm not going to call out people's name, but we did have, someone who came onto the show, a candidate that was running for office in this election cycle, said, hey, look, send me all the information. I'm going to donate. And I sent them all the information, and there was no donation. You know who you are. So if you were sincere in what you said, maybe you forgot. Maybe, got kind of busy, I will say this election cycle, there seems to be 1,000 forums. I know that when I ran for office, I was not going to attend all them forums. You can say what you want about me. It's too many forums in DC. Like, we do not need 1,000 forums for all. Listen, the two leading mayoral candidates, they don't need 1,000 forums, okay? Just have a few forums. Let us get our point across. Let people talk, and let's enjoy ourselves. Until next time, this is the People's Voice, and you are going to enjoy our next show. We're going to talk about trees in DC and how we have planted so many male trees, but not enough female trees, and what that is doing to our people in our communities. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
All right, real quick. If you've ever yelled at your phone like, man, why nobody ever talks about this? Congratulations. This podcast is for you. Welcome to the People's Voice, DC, where the city finally gets the mic. And now, this ain't one of those podcasts where everybody sounds smart, but nobody actually saying anything. We talk real life, DC life. The kind of conversations you have after work, on the metro, or when the group chat gets serious out of nowhere. Yeah, we talk politics, but don't worry. Nobody yelling over each other. Nobody reading off cue cards. And definitely nobody pretending they got it all figured out. We're talking housing, money, schools, mental health, culture, faith, purpose, relationships. Basically all the stuff that actually affects your life, but somehow never gets explained right. This podcast is powered by Rising Voices of Politics and founded by Reverend Michael Campbell. But listen, you don't gotta be a politician, a preacher, or an expert in nothing to belong here. If you got opinion, questions, or just a story to tell, you already qualify. And the energy, chill, honest, a little funny. Sometimes deep, sometimes light, but always real. Catch us live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and social media. Miss it? Cool. It drops the same night at risingvoicesdc.org, and you can listen anytime on Spotify. So whether you're outside, inside, commuting, procrastinating,